Ladies and gentlemen, Joe, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, brilliant intro. Gee, well, I don't think it's toys or comics with that intro,
No,
but
we are we're
very
gonna we're gonna
apropos.
cold launch right into it.
Yeah. Oh,
Folks,
please.
if for some reason you just happen to click on our podcast for the first time, this is Those Two Geeks. He's Joe, I'm Alex. We will talk about anything and everything, but
Hmm.
more or less. But right now, we seem to have become somewhat of a wrestling show
We
with
have.
everything, and I'm totally fine with that, which is ironic
Same.
considering I actually watch less wrestling now than I have done in a while, but I seem to be more on top of it at the same time, so I don't know how it's working. um if you've been living under a rock for the past 2 or 3 days, the on WWE Smackdown Friday night, Cody
Yep.
Rhodes, the winner of the Royal Rumble, came out to make his decision as to who he's going to challenge at WrestleMania for a title shot, either Seth Rollins with the World Heavyweight Championship,
Hmm.
or the part-time champion Roman Reigns with the undisputed Universal Championship. The There should have been no doubt where Cody was going, because it has been building to Cody vs Roman 2 for
A year.
a year. A year, and Cody's
Yeah.
story's been building for two.
Right.
Oh, like Cody has been waiting to get back to Roman Reigns. He has been the closest person to have beaten him,
Correct.
to have ended the historical championship reign that's 1,250 some days at this point.
Hmm.
And he, like, I don't know how to say this, but he stepped aside to let the Rock.
This is such an anomaly. I was talking
So
about this with my friend. So we were supposed to, it was billed as we get the definitive answer for WrestleMania set in stone, which we got Bailey's answer, which is what I predicted on the show,
yes, you
and
did.
Matthew too.
I
And it's
I thought
brilliant.
that was fantastic. I thought that was great. I really
Brilliant.
enjoyed
It
it.
was
I
the best
love
way to
Bailey
go.
just turning around and speaking to them in Japanese. I thought that was
Yes,
brilliant.
that was great. And it's like like Matthew said, our good friend Matthew Klein, who's an
Hmm.
amazing creator. Please read his book Crashing and anything else he does. Trust me. But yeah, it was a case of she's going to destroy what she created because it got too big for its britches type of deal, which works perfect. Cody's story, if you believe there was a story long term, I'm at the point now where I think Cody was wooed away from AEW with the carrot and the stick at this point. I
Yeah.
truly believe it because they did everything they could. Supposedly, Vince McMahon even flew to his house, which is never occurred to anybody. No one can verify it, but Cody's said it, whatever. So they wanted him, they had plans for him, but it seems like they just never saw him as the true guy because Roman's the guy. And that's fine. You've been building Roman as the guy and it's worked great. But they've been saying Cody was never supposed to beat Roman at Mania last year. It was a last minute decision to even put him in the main event, winning the Royal Rumble. It wasn't the plan. It wasn't what they wanted, blah, blah, blah. It was never in the cards. Well, they built it around and they made it work brilliantly. And they swerved everyone because everyone thought for sure Roman was dropping at Mania to Cody. All the
Hmm.
stars were aligning and everything. I will say this. I'm a humongous Cody Rhodes fan. I have been for a very long time. But this magic that they have created with Roman Reigns, as of last year at this point, was unprecedented to the it was like, I don't want this ride to end. I know it has to, but I'm not ready. Man, can we get one more win out of this? And to my surprise, they actually beat Cody and had Roman do it, which I never saw coming.
No.
And then I was like, holy crap, where do you go from here? Because Roman laps everybody. But then they started with, we're going to rebuild Cody through another version of Dusty's hard time story from years ago, which is so fitting. Now, that story should end with Cody finally exercising his demons and taking out Roman Reigns. That's the
Agreed.
way it should end. Cody won the Rumble 2 years in a row, the third person to ever do it, first in 20 odd years.
Fourth, I think.
Fourth, you might be right, I'm sorry, but first in 20
No.
odd
Matter.
years. And something special. There's still a lot of juice there. People have been invested in Cody for 2+ years. If you're a WWE fan, you have been very invested in the Cody Rhodes story. It has been enthralling. You want him to finish it. Of course, it's kind of projected. That's the issue that people are saying, well, it's kind of a foregone. Well, yeah, all stories end. I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, you got your swerve, and now the hero is going to get his win. The problem that seems to come into this is WWE now has what I call the Goldberg issue, and I've always called it. When you get so far on a streak, you run into a wall of how do we end this satisfying? Like the Undertaker streak. We know that didn't end satisfying. Goldberg's didn't end satisfying. They now seem to have been at this thing where, okay, Roman broke 1,000 days. First person to break 1,000 days in 30 years. Amazing. That kind of should have been the ultimate mark in today's era because it's a lot to ask of people to retain and stay on board for more. Now it seems the writing on the wall is, wait, if we get him till September, he breaks Hulk Hogan's record. Okay. And it's weird WWE logic that they want to break Hulk Hogan's record on the 40th anniversary of Hulkamania. It's just one of those, we love you, but we also want to slap you down. It's WWE logic, which I fully believe now after last night they're going for, and I'll explain. But okay, so he breaks Hogan's record. What's next on the books? You want to break San Martino's? That's 8 years. Do you really think after last night, people are going to wait 8 years of this? And the other thing is, Punk proved that there might not be a tomorrow. What if Roman gets sick again during the wait? What if he gets an injury? What happens? Like, this has to end in a satisfying way to keep it iconic. Otherwise, if Roman falls apart or gets sick or relinquishes it, it's not satisfying and it's a flop.
Mm-hmm.
Cody has to friggin' finish it at Mania. He
It
has to.
so my entire thought around this, like, there's a lot going on in my mind when I was watching the segment, and how I was just so frustrated. Like, legitimately, I remember I didn't even know. I actually watched the segment after the show, so I already knew what was
Right.
coming.
Yeah.
Because you saw in the chat we had from Matthew. He's like, wait, what's going on? Why are people so angry at The Rock all of a sudden?
I know.
And I watched the segment. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. So if you wanted to have The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, if that is your end goal,
Mm-hmm.
you should have Cody beat him at Elimination Chamber.
Correct. But neither Rock or Roman are working the chamber.
Yep, exactly. Like, that's what you needed to do, is to have
Right.
Cody take the belt off Roman at the chamber,
Correct.
or have Cody take the belt from him, and then have Roman lash out and challenge The Rock, and then WrestleMania 41, you have the big payoff.
Exactly.
It would mean so much more when there's no title involved, and I was thinking, like, there's no way they're going to give the belt to The Rock, and then as I said in the group chat, like, at the same time,
They
realistically, they could, because
he's
times
bored of TKO.
how many times has Roman actually defended the belt since WrestleMania last year?
6.
Right? He's had Elimination Chamber, Survivor Series.
Elimination
Royal
Chamber came
Rumble.
before WrestleMania with Sami
No,
Zayn.
sorry. So counting back, you have Royal Rumble with the Fatal 4-Way. You have Survivor Series versus LA Knight.
Yep. And then you had Saudi with LA Knight.
Saudi with LA Knight.
You had SummerSlam with Jay.
Yes.
And then you had the title also on the line with the Usos versus Roman and Solo at Money in the Bank, but that didn't go down. If you remember, they didn't win the tag titles, but Roman wasn't pinned, so he didn't lose his belt. So since WrestleMania last year when he pinned Cody, he only defended it now, I think, maximum of 4 times.
Right.
And I'm being generous.
So you could have The Rock do the same schedule. You could.
You could.
There's no reason The Rock can't hold the belt and probably defend it a couple more times in Roman in a year.
Right.
All he's got to do is show up once a month on Smackdown by surprise, and boom, there you go. I
My yeah.
I'm not even mad that there's Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania.
No, because I
I'm
would
not.
do it. It's a dream match that he's
It's
51 years old. If you're going to do it
do it
now,
sooner than later. I'm
right?
more annoyed that they built Cody in
Exactly.
if Cody hadn't won the Rumble,
I'd be fine with this.
I would be fine with it. I don't think there would be any reason to be
Hmm.
any way upset. Like he could still finish his story. But
Yeah.
like if Gunther had won the Rumble and wanted to go after Seth, if Drew had won
Right.
the Rumble to go after Seth,
Right.
if CM Punk had won the Rumble to go after Seth and then said, "Hey, I'm injured. I can't do
Right.
this." And then you have a three-way between the final four people in the Rumble,
Right.
or a triple threat between the final four people in the Rumble minus CM Punk to determine who actually gets the number one shot. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Or say, hey, Punk's out. We're going to decide who gets the World Championship slot at WrestleMania because The Rock's going after Roman at WrestleMania.
Right. I mean, so if you think about it, Tony Khan gets so much shit, including from me, for
Mm-hmm.
these snap, ridiculous, grandiose decisions that don't seem to have anything behind them. They're just like shock and awe. Well, this is that. Basically, they're doing a Tony Khan move all the way because what should have happened is what I've maintained since day one. Since this bloodline story happened 3.5, almost 4 years ago now, I always said blood begets blood. It should end by blood.
You have always
Endgame,
said that The Rock is
I
always going to
have.
be the end
I said
boss.
The Rock
Yeah.
should always be the catalyst, but I never said The Rock should be the one to win the title. If you go back and listen to all
Uh-huh.
of us, I've always said he should be the one who puts the nail. I've always looked at it as he was should be the one who cancels out Solo in the rematch with Cody and Roman, because we all know the way WWE booking has gone with Roman. Even at fucking Royal Rumble, Solo had to get interfere again. Rinse, wash, repeat. It's a good match, and then Solo interference at some point leads to Roman winning somehow. It's tiresome. So what should have happened was Rock should have never came out and did that spot with Jinder Mahal, a month back. It never should
No.
have happened. What should have happened was The Rock should have been hush hush and quiet and a surprise until WrestleMania, where Cody's in the same spot as last year. Announcers are talking about deja vu. It looks like it's going to happen again. And Solo comes in, and you hear "If You Smell." The place would explode.
Mm-hmm.
Roman's
Give
distracted, and
give
then Cody
give
hits
give
him
The
with
Rock the Rock bottom and at people's elbow to Solo.
yeah. Cancel out Solo. Roman's beside himself. Paul Heyman's beside himself. It's a genuine surprise. Everyone's distracted. Roman turns around. Cody hits 3 or 4 crossroads to put the nail, pins him 1, 2, 3, finishes his story, and now Roman wants bloodlust on The Rock for costing him his era,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
it. That's how it should have went. What you're reading is up till yesterday, according from things that I was read, not dirt sheets, just a lot of different sources.
Yeah.
They said that the plan was Cody Roman 2 Mania. No Rock, Cody Roman 2. Paul Levesque, everyone was on board. They said as of yesterday before SmackDown, Dwayne Johnson lobbied very, very, very hard to change the match. And the problem is the way it went down last night, it was supposed to be a definitive answer. We still don't have a clue what's going on the way that ended. You don't know if Cody relinquish his title shot to The Rock? Can you do that? Did The Rock say he's
You
just going
can
to
do that
challenge?
because you can do that because Vince relinquished to Stone Cold, but then that was
Right.
when Stone Cold was the runner-up in the Rumble, so he almost won it three in a row.
Right. So did he just give a title shot away after 2 years of building your story? You're stepping aside for The Rock to have a final moment. The only thing you got of it was Cody said, "I want that title still, but I want to take everything from you." So the way I look at it is, okay, you have The Rock take the tribal chiefdom from him. Now he's wounded, and Cody finishes it. That's fine.
Does
The,
he finish it at SummerSlam? Like, can it because John Cena challenged at
it's
No
just
Mercy instead of
right.
WrestleMania.
It's just ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just The Rock. This stinks of, and I like Dwayne Johnson. I'm a fan of his. I really am. But when you have a mega star, not to mention a mega ego as your board of director with creative change, this is an issue. This guy has no reason to put himself in the biggest slot of the year in the biggest match just because it's his cousin. It's not good for business. And like I said on off mic, it is the most disliked video that WWE has ever put on their YouTube channel in 9 hours. It is beyond backlashed.
Mm-hmm.
So do WWE pivot? Do they stand the course and say, fuck it, we're just going to be stubborn and go because people will come around? Like, they put themselves in a real shitty corner right now. You still
Yeah.
got to figure out what Cody's doing. Is he challenging Seth? And if he is that really a big deal? Because it's going to be 4 in a row that he beats Seth.
The thing
Or
is, it's a bigger deal for Seth to beat Cody. It would make more
exactly
sense to me if Cody doesn't beat Seth, doesn't
then
challenge Seth.
then you
He ends up going for Roman one way or another. Seth loses his title at Mania, goes on hiatus, comes back.
right.
When he comes back, Cody is the Universal Champion, and Seth challenges him and says, "Look, I have never beaten you. You obviously didn't think I
Right.
was worth challenging at Mania.
Agreed.
Like, let's go." And then you've got a feud between the two of them, and you can even hot potato the title a few times to,
Right.
right? So I don't know.
Cody's
Anyway,
his white whale like Samoa Joe was Punk's. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing you could do, which I'm a little afraid of right now, is that Cody could pivot, give The Rock his spot, and go challenge Seth at WrestleMania for that belt, which he's already talked down about, and then lose to Seth, which would be the worst decision out of all the decisions. Because if you make Cody lose 2 Manias in a row,
Yeah.
no one's getting behind him. Like, you put yourself in so many corners doing this. The Rock doesn't need the Mania spot. The Rock could show up at Mania and be a presence because that's good, but he can finish this at Money in the Bank, Royal
Mm-hmm.
Rumble, Clash at the Castle, Bash at Berlin, any of the other mega events he could finish it at. But Dwayne Johnson wants WrestleMania. He even said, if I come back, it's WrestleMania. It will be the biggest of all time with me and Roman. And it just reeks of, great. I'm glad these kids have really, really worked their asses off, but I'm The Rock, and fully to that, I'm taking what I want. And I don't like that. And that fans are seeing it too. And obviously, because the fans love The Rock, but they don't like this decision. It's a very bad decision.
I agree. I agree. Like, and I think it boils down to, we're in agreement that we like how we like the fact that there is a main event, or a Rock versus Roman
Of course.
event. Like, we're all for that.
Yeah.
We like that Cody is still going to finish his story and that he won the Rumble. All of that is good, except when you put it all together, the timing
Yes.
just isn't great. Like,
It's a
if you
nightmare.
right, like, why couldn't why couldn't The Rock have come back last year, and this could have all been
Right.
done?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's still a couple of weeks to Mania. You got Elimination
9
Chamber
weeks.
coming up before,
Yeah.
so I think there's time for them to either sell it or get it over before. I I would be fine if Cody wins the belt before Mania. I would be
What, an
absolutely fine.
elimination chamber? I would be fine. Or a
Yeah,
Raw or a SmackDown. I'd be fine
anything.
with
Like,
it.
I think Cody at a SmackDown before, to take,
Yeah.
or the Raw before, takes
Right.
the belt from Roman, and then Roman goes into that bet with barely a bloodline and faces The Rock.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Wounded.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like, I just don't see. This is also my pessimism and everything about Roman's schedule. I don't see Roman
Right.
competing twice in the same month.
I
I
don't
don't.
have an issue with Roman's schedule. Like, he even said
It,
last night, which I believed was brilliant in the promo. He's like, y'all would love my schedule. He's
oh,
like,
don't get me wrong.
like, I
I would
love
love
it.
his schedule.
Right.
I think my issue isn't his schedule, but it's how it's claimed that he's a legendary champion. He's been champion for so
Right.
long.
Right.
Yeah,
He's presented in a different way. Like, it's
exactly.
kind
Like,
of like when CM Punk was the longest reigning champion in WWE for 434 days at that point years ago. Think about that now. 434 days at one point was a humongous Titanic deal.
mm-hmm.
Roman had dwarfed that, like, lapped it over and over.
Yep,
But Punk even said, hey, San Martino held the belt for 8 years and he's the biggest legend according to the history books. He goes, guess what? He defended the belt once every 2 months in Madison Square Garden. He's like, I defend it every week almost. He's like, if I was champ back then, I'd be champ for 12 years because of how much I defend it. And he's right. That's the
exactly.
logic. The problem is they've built something so big with Roman, like so big, kind of like Taker's streak, that anything less than the absolute best is an unsatisfying conclusion. And it sucks because I watched an interview with Roman Reigns yesterday from like 6 months ago. And the interviewer was interviewing him and they go, "You're saying that when you lose," he's like, "I'm not losing." He goes, "But you're saying that when you lose, they'll miss you." He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Think about it. When this is gone, what is there?" And he's right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what happened with WWE last year. They wanted it at Mania. It was forecasted, it was 3 years in, but all of a sudden they got to the moment and got closer and they were like, wait a minute, when this is gone, what do we do? Because I will make a prediction right now. Cody needs to finish the story because I'm tired of hearing about it and I do want him to be a champion. He deserves it. But guarantee you, because I know wrestling fans, I am one, but not that kind. They are so freaking fickle. We have tolerated Roman for 4 years almost as champion. There hasn't been insane hate against him. People either got on board or, it comes in cycles. You're either super tribal chief or like you're okay, you understand, it's cool. When Cody finally beats Roman and takes the belt, don't expect him to last until maybe the end of the year
Oh
because
God, no.
people will turn on him in the white meat babyface act within 4 months.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
like Cody won't be champion for long, and I don't think he needs to be champion
He
for
doesn't.
long.
No, it's
I
a
I
palate
would
cleanser.
actually be more okay. I would think it would be so much better if Cody wins and then Damian Priest cashes in, because then
Oh
you've
my
really
God.
got
Correct.
the Dusty story there.
Correct. Agreed. And Damien's got to cash in too at some point.
Yeah,
They can't be like, oh, we don't think he's big enough. He's not like I think Matthew was saying, oh, does he have a successful cash in though? He has to. With Damian Priest, the way he's been built, the way he's been focused, he has to. He can't be a jobber. He has to be a focal point and he needs to do it with an impact. Does it have to be Mania? No. Could it be Mania? I thought so. I thought the most poetic thing ever would be CM Punk beating Seth and then losing immediately to Damian Priest. That
agreed.
I thought would have been right.
And you could still do that with Drew, right? Have that happen. The only person I would rather him not take it off would be if it's Gunther versus
Right.
Seth, and or if Gunther wins it one way or another, and
Right.
Priest comes in and tries to take down Gunther, and Gunther just finds another
Their
gear.
roster is also so stacked at this point. They've never had this many main event focuses going into Mania.
Mm.
Like you've got Drew. What do you do with him? He's absolutely deserving of a headlining spot. You've
Yep.
got Gunther. He's absolutely deserving of a headlining spot. You've got LA Knight. Same deal. You've got so many people ready to go, but they seem to have too many people and they don't know what to do. And now you throw The Rock on top of it, which The Rock should never have been the focus. He should have been the assistants.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
He should have been a special guest referee to cost him
Something.
at this Mania, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
at the next one or the next PLE, it's Rock versus Roman.
Yeah. Like, you know what I would do at this point right now? Especially like God, if Cody handed his title shot over to The Rock, I don't know what to say. The
I
only thing
I
I
would
would
almost
do,
be curious if Cody handed it over. When is his contract up, and did he resign?
yeah, I thought he re-signed to a 5-year deal. I thought they locked him up.
I would hope they would have locked him up, but maybe
They'd
that's
be
the
foolish. They'd be foolish not to. Worse than MJF. Cody is the guy.
Mhm.
You know, but I still want the John Cena versus Cody match, passing of the torch. I still want that moment. I think that would be okay at Mania if that's, you know, what occurred. But they're gonna have to do some funny business booking bullshit logic because his character makes no sense that I love The Rock, but I'm just going to give you my spot after clawing and scratching all the way to it. Just
I watched that segment and I was like, my God, this is like he's doing his best to sell it for the business, but it was not comfortable to watch as
he
someone
also
who
looks genuinely sad. Like
I
he looks
know.
sad. That was the thing at Mania last year. I tell you, the carrot and the stick, I swear to God, they get told two different things. Because if you watch the promo before Mania, the final promo before Mania last year, there
Yeah.
is so much energy and hype and happiness in Cody Rhodes. When you watch him come out the curtain for last year's Mania, you can immediately see when he's walking out with his daughter. There's an absolute like wind out of his sails immediately. And I was like, I don't think Cody. I told Danelle as soon as he walked through the curtain, I was
Yeah.
like, shit, I don't think Cody's winning. He's like, why? I'm like, he's about to cry with his daughter right now. Like he looks miserable. But kudos to him for being the friggin' professional he is. He went through it.
Mm-hmm.
But and I believe that was Triple H's penance for him too. Remember, he broke the throne to open up AEW. That was a
Yeah.
very vocal call out. And Triple H was like, "Hey, I remember that." So,
Yeah. Like,
but
don't
he's
get me
done his
wrong.
penance. He's done his
Absolutely.
penance.
Yeah. So anyway, like at this point, we're gonna keep circling. So I feel at the end of the day, time will tell what's going to happen, but immediate reactions to this is it is not a good look right now for The Rock.
No,
Mania's in Philadelphia again.
I know. And do you know the significance of that?
Yeah, because at the last Rumble that Roman won, Philadelphia
Oh my
was not happy. And The
God.
Rock came out and they Philly booed The Rock, who was not happy.
Yeah, and so that's another thing too. Yes, Rock's amazing. He's the most popular movie star slash entertainer on the planet currently. He
Mhm.
he is. There's no
He
question.
is.
But he
Whether you
also is
love him or
kind of
hate him,
like
you know who he is.
right. He's also kind of like Rhonda in that respect, where I don't think he can take the backlash and isn't like, well, they can do what they want to do. I think he genuinely disdains it. Like you saw in that Philadelphia when he held up Roman's hand, he was like, oh, okay, they're probably booing Roman. And then when they were booing the shit out of him, he was like, me? Like, wait, why? I'm The Rock. And that's the
Yeah.
issue. Like, I would love to be in the boardroom when this went down yesterday with Triple H. And you're like, okay, creative changes have changed, Paul. Dwayne's going to go out and challenge Roman, and we're going to push Cody to the side. I would love to have seen what Triple H's reaction was because he must have been like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? I built this for 2+ years, and you're
Yeah.
just going to just throw it away? Like, but also, last thing we'll touch, this was a big move to get everyone to stop talking about Vince McMahon for a couple days.
Yeah.
They had to do something, and this was what it was.
And that's just it. I wonder if this is what it was.
It is for sure because the more that keeps coming out about that, the worse it gets. Like you heard about Brock, right? They're
Vaguely.
basically
Yeah.
well, okay, Brock's done.
I did
They
hear
had
that. Yeah,
taken
I
him.
did hear Brock was done. Yeah.
He's off WWE, off TKO. They've discounted all his merchandise on the site, which they've never done. Like I think it's up to 90% off or something crazy. They're basically turning Braun Breaker into Brock Lesnar. All the plans they had for Brock Lesnar
I've
leading
just
into
shifted
Mania,
to Braun Breaker.
they just gave it to him, even down to the way Braun was in the Rumble. That was Brock's spot. He did the exact same spots and got eliminated by Dom in the exact same way. And it was supposed to be Dom versus Brock at the Elimination Chamber, with Gunther versus Brock at Mania. So I wonder if they're going to have Gunther versus Braun at Mania.
See. I wonder if they would do that. But the thing is, at least with Gunther versus Brock, Brock had a final
Backstory.
boss, yeah, feel
Yeah,
to him. I'm not saying Braun won't have
he
that,
doesn't have that.
but he
No, he
doesn't
doesn't
have
have
that
that yet.
versus Gunther right now. Like
No,
Gunther going in would have been the underdog.
correct.
Braun
Correct.
Breaker going in is more likely to be the underdog versus Gunther.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like again, Gunther is another one. He's on an amazing role that's never been done, and
Mm-hmm.
kudos to him. It's been organic, no, run-ins and all the bullshit. It's just been genuine. Braun isn't the guy to take that off Gunther. Are you
Although
kidding me?
the thing is, if he does take it off him, it would give him a huge rub.
So what? What do you do to Gunther by doing that?
Yeah, true. So I feel like if you take that from him at Elimination Chamber, Gunther goes on to win the Elimination Chamber match. Maybe, like, I don't know.
Listen, I think. Do you have to get going? Because I feel like you need to wrap up or something.
No. Not
Oh,
yet.
okay. So my thought is this, and we'll just keep this wrestling today because I'm enjoying this. My thought is this: with Braun, He's good. He's really much better than I expected him. He
Hmm.
has a great spear. He's a good look to him. He's good on the microphone. He has a lot more seasoning to do. A lot more seasoning. Like I watch NXT. The standouts are Carmelo Hayes. They are Trick Williams. They are Ela Dragunov. That would be my dream. Is Ela beats Gunther on the main roster because you bring everything full circle from NXT UK from 5 years ago and all the wars they've had. That would be amazing. And it would be believable because they've both traded wins. You got to remember, Gunther, I don't know if you knew this because you weren't watching. Gunther held the NXT UK title for like 989 days.
I did know that, but I
Yeah.
wasn't, not because I was watching it, because I just happened to read it somewhere.
Yeah, and Asuka held the belt for like 970 before she got called up to the main roster and lost to Charlotte. Another bad booking decision for her debut. Like, they have the talent. They have the future. They're getting there. They're doing really well. Tiffany Stratton, she's amazing. I think she's up there too early. I wish she stayed there a little bit longer because she's so good, but she needs more time. Like they're in there now with these big, big stars because the roster's so stacked that they're going to get lost in the shuffle. Like I was at Smackdown in December and Carmelo Hayes was up there because he's like tweeting between the main and the NXT roster every week. He got no reaction at the SmackDown I was at. None. And he's great, but he got no reaction. So that should tell you, okay, not yet with some of these people. Just because they're
Mm.
great in NXT, it doesn't translate from 2,500 people to 10,000 or 15, 20, whatever. They need time. Like, you have the future, but you need time for the future. And AEW does that better. They build like Hook. Look at Hook's following. They build new stars better than WWE does, I feel.
I agree. Like Hook coming out to Samoa Joe after losing and saying, hey, you beat me.
Yep.
I'm gonna come back and try again. But
Yeah.
he's not saying he'll do it immediately. It's he's acknowledging the fact that Joe was the better man that night.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I like the way that went down.
I like Joe as champ, but there's some things I don't like. Like he's got kind of a chicken shit heel to him sometimes now. And
Mm.
that's new. Like he's always been the badass, but like putting security in front of him or like weaseling out at the commentating table and things like that, those are new. But you have what's the number one contender? It's Swerve versus
Hangman Adam
Hangman
Page, yeah.
again. Like, well, I think it's too early for Swerve. Like Joe doesn't need to lose the title right away, and Swerve shouldn't lose challenging right away. But I also don't think Hangman should be in there because he's a friggin' ratings killer. He should not be in there.
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
you've got the top five right now for the champion for the men's. The contenders are Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, Adam Copeland, John Moxley, and Roderick Strong.
Right. And Moxley, he's had it like all the time. He doesn't need it.
No.
Roderick Strong, no fucking way. You got to be kidding me. I mean, I want Roddy for the, what is it, international? I'm okay with that. But Swerve, definitely. He's right there. But Joe just won it. You can't have him just, lose right away. Hangman, no way. So I don't know. I mean, again, all these wrestling companies seem to just have so much talent and no direction.
I mean, I would rather Joe Hangman beat Swerve by hook or by crook, and then lose to Joe. I think that
Agreed.
it makes sense that way to have it go so that way you're still saving Swerve because Joe doesn't have to have it for a long time.
No,
And
no, but he needs it somewhat. He deserves it.
exactly a couple of wins for it, but
Yep.
he doesn't need it for a while, and then you can get Swerve with it. So I
Correct.
think Swerve would be a great champion.
You know what? Oh, he will be. He's going to be amazing. He's your future for AEW,
100%.
especially while MJF's out. But you know what? Fucking put Brian Danielson in there against Samoa Joe. Do you know how amazing that feud would be? Put him in on his road to retirement. And hell, give him the belt. Give him the belt for a cup
Yeah.
of coffee. Why not? It wouldn't hurt Joe. It will hurt Swerve if you make him a transitional champion, though. It will
Agreed.
definitely hurt him. So, so you've been watching AEW because I've kind of got back into it.
I'm for some reason I'm having a harder time finding some of the shows, so I'm again actually just reading more recaps than anything at this point. Oddly enough, reading the recaps and watching the highlights, I'm more caught up than I would be watching the live shows.
Yeah. So I'll surprise you. I'm enjoying the Bucks. I love their twist of their character. Like, completely love the evil EVPs.
Yeah,
It's great.
I think the thing is they're not the most popular right now anyway, so why not lean into it? They should have. This should have happened
To
after Brawl.
Cody.
Yeah,
Yep.
or even once Punk, the fallout. This should have happened as the fallout from the Punk incident.
Agreed. Yep.
Have them come back as evil EVPs,
Yep.
and
Agreed.
then just play it from there. But
Yeah.
they didn't. So
No.
better late than never, I figured. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's good.
Again, that's the problem with wrestlers in power. It's a two-sided sword. Like, they truly are. I don't know if they're like on the thing as EVPs, but they're listed as it. Cody was never an EVP, by the way. It was just in name. He was never truly an EVP. That was just more of like a kayfabe, like promo type thing. Because
Right. Okay.
that's how he left. If he was EVP, he would have had all the ownership things and like everything to get out of. It wouldn't have been so easy to just leave. So that makes sense. The Bucks are tied to AEW. I mean, you would have no AEW without ROH and the Bucks. It is a brainchild of them, Tony Khan, Cody, probably Stephen Amell, I'd say, and a couple others. But
Yeah, probably.
just oh man, we got Revolution coming up next month,
Mm-hmm.
and that show looks like crap right now without MJF.
But do you know what? I find AEW seems to put on phenomenal pay-per-views with almost no build.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it's because the pay-per-views are just the matches are great or they're able to pull it together at the last minute. Like I've yet to really figure out which one it is.
I think this is my logic. They never miss on a pay-per-view, even without build-up. But I think they go in like a Madison Square Garden house show. They stack it and they just work because that tells you how good the AEW talent is on any day. They can put on an ace show
Yeah.
without build-up. The problem is they stink at the build-ups most of the time. They don't have the writing or the creativity because they're too busy putting on, amazing matches week after week, where WWE knows when to hold them and knows when to fold them. They know when to give you something amazing and then they know when to hold back.
I have noticed that there's a lot more story building in WWE than AEW.
Oh yeah, WWE's 90% story.
Yeah.
Because it
AEW
overcomes
is
the shortcomings.
Yeah, and AEW is significantly more matches, which
Correct.
is fantastic for someone like me who cares less about the
Right.
story or more about what comes out of the story in
Right.
the ring.
Exactly.
So and AEW is definitely more my speed in terms of a show to watch. It's why I think I'm quite happy just to do recaps on WWE because half the time I'm not missing any significant action. Like there's not enough wrestling that I would enjoy. I can usually just watch the promo segments after the fact, and I'm as caught up, right?
Yeah, WWE is heavily promo, and I've always said, in the land of the WWE, you need to be good on the stick. The people who are successful are great on the stick. That's why MJF would be successful.
Yeah,
eventually.
I also think that's why Punk has been. Why he was so successful in WWE was because he was so good on the mic.
Yeah,
and I think the lack of significant promo time in AEW, especially once he came back, it did expose a bit of his ring rust every so often.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at Tony Storm and Deonna Purrazzo, right? They have a backstory in real life. They were best friends. They roomed. They have the same tattoos and whatever. Deanna's not good on the mic. She's very like Jersey Shore on the mic, and Tony's brilliant. But Deanna's an amazing wrestler. So, they overcome each other's shortcomings. But when you have somebody like, I don't know, one of their Latin talents, on AEW and somebody else who really can't speak, it's not enthralling for me, because my type of wrestling is Roddy Piper, the build up. I like to
Yeah.
hear the jarring and shit like that. I'm more forgiving of the match if the promo and setup is amazing.
I think
And
that's
you're
why
the
I
reverse.
enjoy Eddie Kingston so much, is because even if he doesn't promo as well, you believe him so much in what he does say. Like, I am you can't convince me that Eddie Kingston doesn't think this is all real.
Oh, I know. 100%. He friggin' yeah, he does. But
Right?
he's good though. He's
It-
genuine. The
and
people who
that's it.
crap on him, I don't get it.
No, that's exactly my point. Like Eddie Kingston versus CM Punk in the ring
Oh,
was
that was
great.
amazing.
On the mic was phenomenal. And I don't know, I don't know if Eddie Kingston the character and Eddie Kingston the man is absolutely the same person,
Probably.
but Kingston makes you believe it. It's like MJF when he does press is still in character.
Right.
I know that you know that's a character. I
Yeah,
don't
there's
know
a
if Eddie,
max outside that.
yeah,
There definitely is. Yeah.
I don't know if Eddie Kingston has a character or if that's just him and
No,
somehow he hasn't figured out it's not real,
yeah,
right? Like,
I think that's a brilliant take. Like, I
it's
honestly think you're on the head. Like,
and yet
he thinks it's all real.
it works so well, even though we know it's not. There's something
Right.
about his character. I'm like, dude, how are you, like, you make me believe. Like Eddie Kingston is one
Yeah.
of those wrestlers that makes you believe it. And I think the same with John Moxley. During when Kingston beat Moxley in the final for the Continental Classic,
That was great.
it was so I read a lot of people very upset with the fact that Kingston's Uranagi, well, no, not Uranagi,
You're
hi-
okay.
the spinning back fist finisher that he does.
Oh yeah, the lightning fist. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were upset that that's what took him down, or that's what how he won. But when I was watching, I'm like, what do you mean? That makes perfect sense. Like these are two brawlers that have been going at it. And Kingston, like Danielson had been building up how fast Kingston's hands were and how good he was with striking.
Right.
And then he takes out John Moxley, who at the end of the day, he showed Kingston respect and left.
Yeah. I mean, the
Like,
thing is, the thing that really sold Kingston at the end of that angle was Brian doing the King of the Bums
yeah,
call out. Like that helped propel it, because, like you said, you the one who called it. I had no clue who was winning that tournament. I didn't understand the reason for it. I thought it was stupid. And you were like, it's for Eddie Kingston. He's definitely going to win it. And I was like, oh, I guess, maybe. And you were right on the money. When it came down to the end, I'm like, son of a bitch, he was right on the money. And I hated the ending because it made no sense. It was a triple crown. The
mm,
way it should have ended was a triple threat. But instead, the second to last match was a triple threat to see who would go against Eddie Kingston. And it made no sense. I was like, end it in a triple threat, still with Moxley, but, have Swerve in there or whatever. And Eddie still wins it. That would have been great, because you sold the whole triple crown,
I
triple belt, whatever.
yeah, I think it needed to be Moxley versus Kingston
Agreed.
because the history there between them also led credence to everything. And then you have
Right.
Moxley selling injuries and Kingston not actually taking advantage of those injuries because he's like,
Yeah.
that's not my style. I don't do submissions that way. I'm
Right.
gonna beat the shit out of you, and then we're gonna talk.
Yeah. You have the lightning fist, to me, no matter who does it, is always a dumb move. It's kind of like the Judas effect elbow that Jericho has.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute, you're kicking out of code breakers, Uranagis, brain busters, everything you can think of, and then an elbow backwards takes you out. To me, it's
It
always been dumb.
Yeah, I actually I liked Kingston's back fist because it was after a whole bunch of other strikes that clearly were meant to disorientate Moxley.
Right. Yeah.
Right,
The
like
match wasn't good though. I'll be honest. But for what it could have been,
it
they were
could have
just
been,
off. They were just off.
yeah. Oh, and that's just it. Like I think in that one it was the story that carried the match
Yes.
more so than anything else.
Because that whole
But
night was off.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie though. Like over the last few months, I've become so much more appreciative of John Moxley than I
You
was.
should.
Like the more you watch him and his like his interviews and stuff. I'm like, I really like this guy. Like, wasn't a big fan of him going into it because like, I didn't understand the character. And then you realize that the character isn't that much different than John Moxley himself.
Yeah, I read his book, and what you see on there is pretty close to who he is. And I met him
Yeah.
in person. We were going to interview, but it got cut because of time. And I was like, okay, no problem. I've seen him on interviews. He's not a great interviewer. Like
Mm-mm.
the people struggle with him because he's either disinterested or just doesn't really give you much to work with. Like Chris Van Vliet, that was a boring interview. The worst interview he ever did was on the Stone Cold podcast where Austin wanted to punch him because it was like the worst interview ever. But that's Moxley. Like he's
it,
not a fame and fortune kind of guy
he's
with the
not.
limelight
I actually
at
think one
all.
of his best interviews was with Renee,
Of
on the
course.
right, because that's his wife and he's
Yeah.
comfortable with her. It was more of a general chat,
Right.
and but even she was frustrated, and she's able to call out like, "Hey, people think you're a terrible interview." It's like, well, yeah, because I answer quickly.
Right.
Like, well,
He
then
doesn't give you much meat on the bone.
no,
He answers direct and he doesn't give any like no exposition. He doesn't fluff anything up or give you any type of deep answer. It's like yes, no, yep, okay. Like he's just very direct, and
yeah,
that's him. But he's great. I mean, he is the workhorse of AEW. He carried them completely through, I'd say 21 and 22 wholeheartedly.
and also
Yep.
through Punk's injury, right, like
Yeah.
he is the reason I think AEW is as popular as it is, because like Moxley is the kind of guy you can love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
Would is CM Punk a bigger draw than John Moxley, than Adam
Of course.
Copeland? Absolutely, of
Of course.
course. Would I rather see Adam Copeland versus John Moxley than CM Punk versus John Moxley?
Oh,
Absolutely,
definitely. Definitely.
because Punk is electric. He is fantastic to watch, and he can tell a great story.
He used to be. I have to admit that he doesn't have it at that level anymore. Not
I
just as the torn tricep. It's just
I
not
okay.
there.
So I know what I said, and what I should have said. He's fantastic to watch building a story,
Yes.
and it's when he gets into the ring to pay it
Hmm.
off, you're riding the high of the emotion that he's brought to it coming in.
Exactly.
If you're watching him in a match without a story, like you're you're still better than I would ever be,
Oh, of course,
but
but he's
your
not
sk-
his
your
level.
skills aren't where they used to be. And I think
Right.
putting with FTR for CMFTR definitely highlighted
Rusty.
how
Yeah.
rough he was in comparison to the other
Yeah.
two. And
I mean, when he came back to AEW, no one was happier than me because I never thought I'd see CM Punk in a wrestling ring anywhere
Mhm.
ever again. So I was elated. I was worried, but I was elated. When he had his first match with Darby, it was great. I was like, okay, he's still got it. He's good. He had the match with Kingston, phenomenal. I was like, okay, he's still got it. His feud with MJF still remains my favorite thing of AEW ever so far. But then when he got in there with people who could really still go, it was different.
who weren't as they didn't protect him the same way.
Exactly. Like MJF got better over time. He wasn't perfect right away. When him and Punk first feuded, he was good. He was very, very good in the ring, but he wasn't what he was that we saw through world champion MJF, who was
Yeah.
just doing insane things. So it wasn't that bad. Right now, honestly, I was hoping when Punk came back at Survivor Series that he signed a 1 year deal because all I wanted was him to main event WrestleMania and put that, end on his career and then have the end that he deserves. And I hope he gets it next year. But I have no interest seeing this guy lumber on for, years and years because he's made of glass now. He's going to have to find a new way to train or something because every single time he returns in the ring now, during the match he gets hurt and he has to go. It's either a tricep or a knee or a foot or something. His body isn't at that level. And the point I'm trying to get at is what you said earlier. he's amazing and perfection in telling a story and psychology. So he would be better served bringing up the next crop of wrestlers in NXT. I think they would benefit amazingly from him in that kind of role sooner than later, because his knowledge of that and his ability to bring that out of people is so valuable. But him in the ring at the top anymore, I don't know. I do hope he gets the Mania main event next year, personally. But after that,
I agree. I agree.
you know,
Nothing you have said I disagree with right there. I I would like, from a purely human level, I am absolutely gutted for Phil
me
Brooks.
too.
Like
Very much.
absolutely gutted for Phil Brooks that he tore his tricep.
Yeah.
It is the worst news that he could have had, or that
Yeah.
that you can get as a human. You come back, Paul Levesque is going to put you in the main event at Mania. It's all you've wanted
Yep.
for your career.
Yep.
You're building a great story with an injured Seth Rollins. So
Hmm.
maybe you're going to have a triple threat with Drew
Right.
in the main event, so that um you can really kind of carry, or Drew can carry the match if Seth is injured and can't do as much.
Exactly.
You can have a banger with Drew.
And the thing is, I
And
give him so much credit as a human being because people talk about who he is. He didn't have to go out on Raw and get out that way. He could
no.
have been typical CM Punk and not showed up and stayed home and said, I'm not coming back until I'm ready. He could have done all that. The fact that he went out and put Drew over even more by
Hmm.
letting Drew stomp on him, because they're friends. Are you kidding me? Like, they're good
Oh,
friends.
I completely think if Drew was, if Punk, because I believe anything that was said in that promo would have been agreed to.
Of course.
He would have said, "Hey, I'm going to stamp on your arm. Are you okay with that?" Yeah, it's fine. Go for it.
Yeah. That
Anything
line
like
when
that
he
would have
said,
been said.
when Drew turned it around on the audience, when he was like, that's how good Drew is. He's understated.
Yeah,
When he came out and he was somber and he's like, yo, I'm sorry. He goes, I want you to know, I prayed for this to happen to you. Like, oh my God, what a heel moment. Like, that subtle, like, dig at him, gutting him was amazing. That's the kind of thing that Roman's missing now. He doesn't
mm,
have that nuance anymore. And I was like, okay, Drew's a megastar. What are you guys doing with him? He's not locked up in contract yet. Like, don't let this guy walk. Give him the spot he deserves.
yeah.
He's a great heel, you know? So I hope Seth faces either Drew or Gunther at Mania at this point. I don't want to see Cody versus him. It's a cop out. It makes no
I
sense.
I would rather Cody get kayfabe injured. And if you're still with us and you're not a wrestling fan, thank you. Kayfabe is the
Yeah.
in story injury, not an actual injury. I do
Right.
not wish an actual injury on anyone.
No.
Um, like, I just write him off as injured for a bit. Do you know, honestly, I would have been happier if at the end of the Rumble, Cody's clearly favoring something. He points up to the thing, and then he comes out on SmackDown and says, "Hey, look, um, I've got a dislocated shoulder, or I've
Right.
got a separated shoulder. I'm not cleared to compete for this many months. I still
Right.
won the Rumble, Roman. I'm still coming for you, but I
Yeah.
can't challenge you or Seth. Like,
Right.
you've already got one Iron Man champion in there. Like, again, we beat the dead horse earlier. I don't like the way
Yeah.
Cody stepped aside. I
It,
think it would, like, I think that when you've already got so much build for
yeah.
Seth to then trash Seth's belt, it's one thing to say for Roman to say, "Hey, I've already beaten all of these guys. Now they're competing for
Right.
this." Yeah, but you've never beaten Seth, has he?
Exactly. And that was the point that people are trying to make. But also, that doesn't do anyone any good to trash Seth's belt, kayfabe or
Mm-mm.
not. It weakens it so bad, especially for the challenger to come out and be like, "This belt is beneath me. I need to go for the belt of my
It
dad or
if
whatever."
I was Cody, what I would have said is that, you know what, of the two of you, I've almost beaten you,
Hmm.
and I can beat you. I'm now going to go and beat the man who has beaten you, to prove to
Right.
you that I'm better than you. Like, I
I mean,
don't
yeah.
like.
The only way I thought that he was getting at before The Rock came out last night, or when The Rock came out and he said, I'm not going to do it at Mania, when he said, "I'm going to take everything from you." So I was looking at that like, okay, you're talking the tribal chiefdom, you're talking the title, you're talking the legend, the mystique. The other way they could go, but I don't know if the fans will buy it. It's going to be very, very tough. Is that Cody could go after Seth to take that belt to rival Roman, and the point will be, okay, I have this. Now I'm coming for that. And the two will become one again because we don't need a part-time champion.
No, we don't. Like, I think the reason Seth's belt was created wasn't because Raw needed a belt. It's because people are getting too fed up with Roman
Yeah,
doing nothing, and like the de
exactly.
facto Raw champion being the US title.
Correct. And think about it this way. Not only were wrestling fans pissed off, but you've got to look at the guys and girls who work there every day. They're pissed too because their opportunities are less when this guy's not around.
Mm-hmm.
He is such big business. Like my buddy Billy said, he goes, "You don't understand, Joe. You haven't seen Roman in person yet." And I haven't. He's like, there's a total different feel when he enters the arena. Like, he's like, they pump in cold into the arena to make it cool. He's like, you feel the difference. When he's not there, it's noticeable. And the ratings prove it. Roman is a ratings draw. He is
Mm.
that big of a mystique. But when you're that big, you can't just go away. You are at the top and you feed everyone at the bottom. You help everyone grow the business by being as good as you are.
Yeah,
When you leave, it creates a vacuum and it's noticeable and it's not fair to the people. So I didn't like the idea of the secondary champ at first because I was like, this is bullshit. Why did you unify belts? Now we got two unified belts and
I
one belt, you know? But I grew
yeah,
around to it because of how good Seth has been with it and how
I
much
I
work he put
truly
in.
think that they made the mistake unifying the belts, but
Absolutely.
they wanted Roman to have the Hulk Hogan belt, which is.
Right.
But I mean, you could have spanned that any which way you wanted to. Like, hey, Roman's been champion for this long. Well, not with this belt.
Exactly.
Irrelevant. He's still been champion this long. Like,
Exactly. The
which
belt
belt it is
represents
doesn't
the
matter.
same.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the whole point is Roman's belt right now is a mouthful. The WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. First of all, we've said it on the show. It's disputed by the fact another belt is in creation. You aren't the undisputed champion. Second of
And
all,
the thing is,
stupid.
you've got World Heavyweight Championship
Hmm.
and you've got the Universal. Clearly, they've put that just by name alone as the premier belt. What they
Right.
should do, what they've done with the women's, and have, hey, you're the Raw champion, you're the
Hmm.
SmackDown champion, and just call it the
Right.
WWE Raw Championship. Like
Exactly.
it's okay. Oh, the World Raw World Champion and SmackDown World Champion. Like, you can
Agreed.
change the names of these belts to these different things. Like, anyway, like this is we
It- We're
that's
going
in the weeds
overboard,
of,
but like,
yeah,
you
but
know, I enjoyed this talk. Hopefully, you
mm,
guys all stuck with us. You enjoyed it too. We always love talking wrestling. Bottom line, it's going to be a very, very interesting road to WrestleMania more than ever. They have so many crazy loopholes that they're going to have to untangle to figure this thing out because before they were just set with a ton of choices that would have been satisfying. Now they've got to unravel this mess and figure it out. But, you know, if you also notice, Alex, when you go back and watch the promos, a lot of the talent started calling Roman's belt the WWE Championship again. At
mm,
first, I just thought it was a mistake, but too many people have been doing it consistently. I think they're going to just go back to that.
I think so. Like, I think they're going to quietly unname or
Yeah.
just discontinue. I think at this point, Roman's belt is once it's lost, the second belt is just going to be quietly discontinued. Like,
Yeah.
I think at the end, when Roman loses the belt, there's not going to be three world championship belts
No.
unless you do SmackDown and Raw and the WWE Championship. Like, unless you actually have one champion going between the two, but that's too much effort and logic to try and get my head around. So
No,
please
I
don't
think
do that.
it's fine two belts. I mean, one other scenario, but it's too late now because it's one belt, was last year. They should have just had Cody challenge him for only the WWE Championship, the one
Mm,
Dusty didn't hold. Roman retains the Universal, which is the one that started the reign, and after a couple months, the weakness of that would go away, and Roman would still be on this run, and we
Yeah,
wouldn't be talking about it. That
yeah.
could have been the way they should have went.
I think that probably would have been a smarter way to do it.
Yeah, but
So,
we'll see. Um, Anyhow, this has been great. No final thoughts, because as you've been seeing for the last 20 minutes, we've had one. So
exactly. No final thoughts on my end, folks. If you stay with us this long, appreciate it. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.